Hi guys, Rhi here. Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk with Rhi. Thank you so much again for joining me on the podcast. I am your host, Rhi from mummyof4.com. You may know me from my main channel or my Disney channel, Mummy of 4 Does Disney. But right now, today, we're going to have a little chat about weekends and things we can do on the weekends, or things I do on the weekends anyway, as a mum of 4, even though only 3 of my children are home at the moment because my eldest is off in uni, but I still have 4 children because I get that a lot. They're like, I only count 3 children in the vlogs, right? There's definitely a 4th, so he's off in university. Anyway, things I do in the weekends to make my weeks easier. So gifts to future me, if you will. And some things I've put in place over the years and some decisions I've made that make the weekends more pleasant and go a bit smoother and make the weeks much, much easier. So before that, just how's your week been? How have you been? Thanks again for joining me on the podcast. It is a very, very dreary day here in Wales. I feel like winter is upon us and I'm freezing cold. I've got my candles lit here, which you'll be able to see if you're watching the video podcast, which is on its very own channel now, by the way. If you've stumbled across the video or if you are listening in your ear holes via your various podcast providers and you have not yet found the video on the new channel, it is Real Talk with Rhi, is its very own channel. So get cozy and let's have a chat about weekends and specifically doing a little bit of a weekend reset. So one of the things that I think I used to make a mistake of doing was overloading our weekends. So years ago, my eldest did a lot of drama and he had classes on the weekends. And it meant that our weekends were very, very fixed, that we didn't have much room to breathe. We didn't have the option to go away for the weekend, which obviously is its own challenge. So doing a weekend reset and planning for the week and everything is one thing, but it's also nice to have that option, especially if your child's school suddenly has an inset day on a Friday or a Monday. Being able to grab those cheeky little long weekends is a nice option. So wherever possible, and I know it's not always possible, but we try now to avoid having lessons, like swimming lessons or karate or dancing or whatever. We try wherever possible, if there is an option, to choose a weeknight option for those things. I feel like we're already in that mode of doing, routine. And while we're a very routine-driven household with children with ASD and just lots of them, I find routine works really, really well. It's nice that although we have a routine on the weekend, it's a lot more chilled. We have a lot more breathing space. And I'm not saying this is necessarily the best option for you. Maybe for your family, it works best to keep your evenings totally free and to load up on things on the weekend. Obviously, do whatever works best for your family. But have a think about which way round will work best for your family. And I've definitely found through trial and a lot of error that it works a lot better for us to have those weekends as free as possible. Obviously, you're going to get stuff loaded in there, especially with birthday parties. I find especially when your children are lower down the school, there are a lot more whole class parties from age kind of like 5 to 7 when they're in the infants. When they go up to the juniors, I tend to find they have smaller parties. There'll be like a little handful of kids invited to do a smaller party, which as a parent of lots of children, then that is actually quite pleasant when there aren't hundreds of parties to go to through the year, because it can sometimes feel like that. So just carefully have a think about what you're booking into your weekends, but also what you're saying yes and no to on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis. It's so difficult to, especially as a people pleaser, say no to things. But remember that if you're saying yes to something, you are always saying no to something else. So if you're being asked to do something you really don't want to do, then you are ultimately saying no to something else. Maybe it's a night out you really don't want to go out on because you're really, really tired. I mean, that was me last weekend. I was so drained and tired. We've had an amazing time recently. If you've been watching my vlogs on the channel, we've been on a lovely trip. We went to London for my 40th birthday weekend. We've done some wonderful things, but sometimes you just need to chill. So by saying yes to going out if you're feeling really stretched and you're burnt out, you're saying no to rest and healing and sleep. So just keep that in mind. It's so difficult. I'm a people pleaser. It's so difficult to say no to things, but sometimes saying no to things is the best thing you can do. That's just a little caveat really before we actually get into the actual weekend reset. So the first thing I like to do, and if you're watching on YouTube now, you'll see this. I use my own planner. So hashtag ad, hashtag own product, hashtag all the things. I use my organised life planner, and I start by looking at my week at a glance. I put along the top now, if you're just listening to this, it's just basically a grid. I've got the days of the week down one side, and then I put the names of the family members across the top. And I write in what everyone's got on. So that would be like Zara's got a trip coming up on Thursday, so she's going to need a packed lunch, not school dinners. Or it's karate, but it's parents' evening, so we're expected to go in and watch. And then there's swimming lessons on this day, and there's dancing lessons on this day. And I just have a general overview of what we've coming up for the week ahead, and what we're going to be expected to do, what I'm going to need to plan for. And then I know what I've got to get sorted through the weekend. So which kit I've got to get ready, whether I've got to buy in certain things. Like this week alone, for example, my children's school, the girls' school, because obviously, I guess my children are in 3 different schools now. If my eldest is in university, my second child, my youngest son, is in secondary school, and my 2 little girls are still in primary. And the primary had 2 days where they had to wear colours. So one of them was Shmai Day, which is a Welsh day which promotes Welsh language, and they had to wear something ideally red, but or white or green. And then they've got show races and the red card day, which is more wearing red. Now they don't have much red in their wardrobe, so that was a bit of a stretch, but it's something I had to organise on the weekend. And sometimes it's something you've got to like pick up or buy or whatever. And one thing I'm actually finding a lot now with Will being in secondary school is there's a lot more stuff that he's got to take in. So he's doing cookery this term. Sorry, they don't call it cookery, do they? Food technology. He's doing food technology this term. So it's got to be his ingredients and things have got to be organised, all that kind of thing. So all that just goes in my week at a glance. And I'm very much a digital planner for the long term, as in all of our holiday dates, recurring things, everything is in a digital calendar so that I know what is coming up when we're going on holiday, when the children are in school, when the children are not in school, when there are doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, all those things. I couldn't manage all that in a paper planner because some of that stuff is recurring stuff. That's like my long term. I feel like a calendar, that's all digital. That's all managed digitally. My planner is more like digesting and planning for what's coming up in the calendar. So I use a planner and a calendar as a different thing. And it might seem like I'm just like doubling things up by writing things out of my calendar into my planner, but that's just the way that my brain knows that I can digest what's coming up and what I've got to do for the coming week. So I look at my week at a glance, but then I also look at my to-do list, but I don't do my to-do list as just a to-do list. I do it as an Eisenhower matrix. So again, if you are on YouTube, you can see this, but if you're just listening, it is a grid, and you can have a look. There's lots of videos on my main channel where I talk about this, or you could check out the YouTube video later. But basically it's a grid, and there are 4 boxes. You just draw like across through the middle, so you're left with 4 quadrants, and then you put across the top important and not important, or down the side urgent and not urgent. So you've got the top quadrant, which is important and urgent. Those are the super duper things that have to be done this weekend. We've got urgent and not important, which are like the bitty tasks that sort of have to be done but aren't crucial. They're just more like little admin-y things that have to happen but aren't so crucial. And then we've got important and not urgent, so things that are really on your radar but they're not necessarily for this week. There may be something that you need to consider this week coming up but not actually action. And then the stuff that's not urgent, not important, you just don't even need to worry about for a good while. And then what I like to do is to allocate out which days I'm going to do each of these things. So for me, a lot of this is work related stuff. So it's recording podcast episodes, filming, editing, that kind of stuff, because that's the kind of stuff that I do for my job. So that'll be different depending on whatever your life looks like. Maybe you're going through a home renovation, so you're having to like deal with builders on certain days, or decorators, or whatever it might be. Maybe you are a stay-at-home parent and you're tackling different things with your children. Maybe you're going through a massive declutter in your house and you're going to decide which projects or which days you're going to tackle different rooms. Whatever you're doing in your life, I would recommend 3 main priorities for the day. That's what I like to do. It doesn't mean I'm only going to do 3 things that day, but 3 main focus tasks is more than enough. Obviously, there'll be little to-do lists and things that go through each day, little bitty things to be added on. But for me, I like to plan out those main tasks. And then what I like to do is meal plan for the week. Now, meal planning for the week is such a gift to future me, and it's also such a gift to my bank balance, because before I did this, I did spend more money on food and we definitely threw more away. So what I start with is ingredients that I have to use up. So maybe it's something that's going to go off. Maybe I've got stuff I need to use up, a jar of something, a packet of something, stuff in the fridge, stuff in the freezer. And I go through and see, right, what have we got? And then we do the meal plan. Now, the reason we do the meal plan after looking at what the week's going to look like is because you don't want to be focusing on cooking something really complicated on a night you're running in and out and it's manic. For example, for us on dancing night, the girls dance in the same place, but they dance one after the other. So they're in and out, they're eating at separate times. So it needs to be something either super quick that I can prepare for each of them, or something I can make once and kind of like a pasta bake or something that I can leave in the oven and dish out some of it to one of the girls, and then the other one can eat some half an hour later. Something that will work. Whereas something that you're going to all sit down and eat together as a family, that you're going to prepare from scratch and it's going to be made and have to be served in a timely fashion, is not going to be a convenient meal for that night. You know what I mean? So that's why I like to have a look at the meal planning after I do the looking ahead to the week. And then between the ingredients list and the meal plan, I do the shopping list of everything that I'm going to need in order to make those meals. I also have in my kitchen an organisation station with the meal plan. So I copy the meal plan onto there so that everyone can see what's coming up. But also there's a shopping list there that anyone in the family, if we run out of things, they write things on the shopping list. And that way, what used to happen was it'd be like, Mum, we're out of this. And it would be a case of that person had told me, so the responsibility had gone, it was all onto me. And then I had to stop what I was doing and write things down, because my memory is like a sieve if I don't write things down. I was like, so now since we've had this system, it's been great because I just go, look, don't tell me, just write it on the list. And that way I know I can go to that list, and between the list in my planner, the list of, because it'll be like bin bags we've run out of, or apple juice, or whatever it is that someone has physically finished that I don't necessarily know we've run out of. If I haven't used the last of it, I wouldn't necessarily know. And then I know I can do my grocery shopping from that list. So that is a lot of the planning I do for the week, but it doesn't stop there. So my planner, and the details of how you can purchase these, by the way, are all in the description, the video, podcast, all that kind of thing, if you want one of these. But do you know what? You can get your own just notebook. You can write all this stuff out. You don't have to buy the planner to plan the same way, but if you want to, if you find that easier, you can purchase the planner. Or do you know what you can do? There's also the digital version, so you could print out the planner pages that you want to use, or you can fit it on an iPad, anything like that. Lots of different options, but just because I'm using the planner, it doesn't mean you need the planner. If you don't want to have the planner, that's fine. Just use a pen and paper. But this is just the way I like to do it, and I do find using the planner so much easier. And I've got to say, as a slight aside, I was very much always loved having a paper planner for such a long time. And then I moved on to, I designed my own planner, and I was using it digitally. I was using it on my iPad and loving it. Just, it's so convenient. It's always with me because I can open up my phone, open up on my iPad. I've always got it with me. But what I find is I've got my planner on my iPad. When I go into my iPad, there are other distractions there. So if I'm working, I think, I just need to jot something down from my brain. Going into your iPad sometimes can cause distractions. And I've actually found it such a blessing having just my planner and a pen next to me as I work. Because I feel like as ideas come into my head, that they're just going to dissolve into the universe and never be seen again unless I capture them and write them down. So just being able to jot everything down in my paper planner Long story short, I'm a convert back to paper planners. So for all of those of you that said, Rhi, we need a paper version of this planner, because I was all about just going digital initially. Thank you. You were right. I love having the paper planner too. I'm a convert. As a slight aside, before we get back to the weekend reset, I am considering doing a version 2 of my planner with more pages in it and having 2 pages per day and adding a place for journaling and extra brainstorming per day, because I think that would be super helpful for me. Any thoughts on that? Please do let me know. If you're listening to the podcast, I don't think you can respond. You can comment on it if you're on YouTube. Hey, just leave me a comment down in the comments. But reach out on social media or send me an email, rhi@mummyoffour.com, and let me know if that's something you would be interested in. Anyway, back to the show. We're still supposed to be talking about weekend resetting, aren't we? But don't worry, we're going to get back to it. So we've done the grocery list. I personally do my grocery shopping online. Now, I know a lot of people love to go in store. A lot of people think that they save a lot of money in store, and possibly they do. But for me, it is not cost effective to do it that way. So for me, I would have to take time out of either working or being with my children to go grocery shopping. I think it's probably quite different if you have set working hours and you work for someone else. But for me, I feel like that's time that I could be working on my business in effect. Because I guess that's what it is, isn't it? It sounds what I do. I have YouTube channels, I have a podcast, I have a planner store. I guess that's my business. I need to get over the imposter syndrome of being able to call it that. But yeah, I should be working on my business whenever I can. And I feel like it's better use of time for me to have groceries delivered. We do not live super close to a grocery store, so that's another factor. We have little local places, but nowhere really like big supermarkets where there'd be lots of choice and it'd be really cost effective. So I'd have to drive a fair amount of time. So that would cost me time and fuel. So by the time I've done all that, I actually find it easier to get everything delivered. I started having groceries delivered a long time ago. I think when I had the girls, so I think when I had 2 children, I did a lot more grocery shopping. When we got into 3 and 4, it was like, do you know what, I'm going to get this delivered. And I do remember we went on a caravan holiday when Zara was really tiny, and I don't know where the boys had gone. They'd gone off with my husband somewhere. And we went to an Asda, and we went all around this Asda. I spent an absolute fortune with Bella wanting this and that and all the princess this and that, all these extra bits. And then I had to drag it all back and carry it all in with the children. I just thought, why am I putting myself through this? Why? I remembered why I like having things delivered. So having things delivered, I like to book a grocery slot as early as possible during the week. So I've got plenty of option for slots. I like to have my groceries delivered nice and early in the day, because I find if you're getting fresh bread and things, it's a bit nicer. You know, if you're getting baguettes and things delivered, you get them delivered first thing in the morning, they're nice and fresh, rather than sort of end of the day, because that's when I tend to have things delivered when I know I'm home and I'm not working. Have groceries delivered first thing or very end of the day. So very early in the morning, like 6:30 until 7:30 slot works for me. I like to have things delivered then we've got nice fresh fruit and bread and things for the family. And then I also find it is more cost effective for me personally, because I can add things to the list and then I can look over it and think, do I really need all of this? Whereas I don't think I'd go around the supermarket necessarily putting things back. And you can see the total of what you're spending before you press go. So for me, I find that works. Obviously, each to their own. If you live super close to a supermarket, you've got the time to do it, you might be able to go and browse for better deals, then that might work for you. But if you've really got your hands full with work, children, juggling all the things, then I'm a massive fan of grocery delivery. It really works for us. So I get all that done on the weekend, and then I've looked at what needs to be organised. Do we need specific lunches? Do we need specific cookery ingredients for William? Sorry, food technology ingredients for Will. Which meals we're going to have, and all of that is thought about on the weekend. So another thing we'd like to do on the weekend is check the school bags. And when I don't do this, I always regret it, because technically we're supposed to try and check them every night, but realistically, as long as we do it on the weekends, then it's a good thing. The stuff you find in your children's school bags, you're like, are you carrying around bricks and you open them up and it turns out, no, it's not bricks, it's rocks. Zara literally had a load of rocks in her bag the other day. Where did they come from? I don't know. But she had rocks in her bag. And she had an extra drink. Her bag was so heavy. She had her main full chili bottle drink, and then she had another drink in there. And she was like, my bag's so heavy, Mum. So I just, honestly, go through your children's bags on the weekends. At least if you find things that have gone a bit yucky through the week, it's through the week and not at the end of term. Because if you leave it until the end of term to go through your children's bags, you are going to find some really disgusting things. It's bad enough after a week. So ideally, yes, have a good old look through them every night, but at least a good thorough check out and sort out. Like, I will find 4 cardigans in Zara's bag by the end of the week. She just takes them off, puts them in a bag, and then gets to clean one in the morning. Never puts them in the wash. So yeah, that's definitely not a pleasant job to do, but a worthwhile job to do. Find any other bits of notes they've forgotten to give you, whatever it might be. Check those bags. Future you will thank you. Also, make it a point to check in on school emails and WhatsApp groups during the weekend, because good grief, the admin on that kind of stuff, it's so much. Excuse me, just having a drink. The admin, the life admin, especially when you've got children in 2 separate schools, is insane. I will be honest, I'm on so many WhatsApp groups, lots of which I set up myself actually, because my children have been in school for quite a long time. But I'm on so many WhatsApp groups that I have to mute them while I am working, because if I looked at my phone every time someone added something to one of the WhatsApp groups, I would never get any work done ever. So sometimes there's a lot to catch up on. So on the weekends, I do try to go through and see if I've missed anything, specifically party invitations, important stuff about homework. So it's the WhatsApps we need to go through, and also any communication from the school. So there are now several different apps. There's 2 different apps in the primary school, and I think 3 different apps for the secondary school that the school use to communicate with the parents and the children. So that's quite a lot. It is so easy through the week for these things to be missed. So I try my best to go through during my weekend reset and just think, have I missed anything? What has slipped through the net? There's bound to be something. Is there a party invitation? Is there a piece of homework? Is there a special day where they have to dress up in sky blue pink? What have I missed that future me is going to be panicking about if I don't pick it up now? So taking a bit of time to go through that on the weekends really does save so much panic in the long run. And I find the school recently have swapped an app from one type of app that would email us when there was information and it would be in the body of the email. So I picked up on that quite quickly, to now this new thing, which isn't even technically an app, it's a web thing. And it just sends you an email saying you've got a message and you've got to go and log in. Suffice to say, it's a faff. Suffice to say, it's not my favourite thing. But if I don't make it a point of going to do that, I definitely miss out on things. And then I feel like a terrible mother. It doesn't mean we are terrible mothers, by the way, when we feel like terrible mothers. But when we miss things, that's how we end up feeling. It's definitely how I end up feeling anyway. The guilt of missing out on things and sending your child into school on the wrong day in the wrong colour. It's real. I'm sure we've all been there at some point. The next thing we try and do on the weekend is homework. So obviously this is going to depend what your child's homework policy is for school. So for Will, he's slightly more independent now with homework. So I am asking him, has he got homework? What is the homework? Also, there is homework on an app for him. So he's trying to stay on top of his homework the night he gets it. And I've tried to explain to him that just leaves plenty of wiggle room if there's anything going wrong or if he's struggling with anything. Plenty of time for him to go back and finish anything off. So that's working really well for him. But for the girls, we're mainly doing homework on the weekends, partly because we were doing it on Friday nights and I found that they were just so burnt out. So they used to get the homework on a Friday and we'd try and do it on a Friday night. And they were just so burnt out by Friday night, because they've had a whole week in school, they've had activities, and we just all needed that time to just not do much. And we try and keep Friday nights clear as well, because by Friday we're all tired, and that includes me. So we try and get the homework done on the weekends. Obviously it's going to depend when your child is given homework as well. But for us, the main bulk of it we try and do On the weekends, we've got a bit of space, a bit of breathing time to get that done. I will say homework has been a lot more of a stressful issue in our house since lockdown. I feel like the whole homeschool thing has kind of, I don't know, made everyone have a little bit of sort of PTSD and everyone is slightly traumatized, or we are in our house anyway, by the whole experience. And I think there's a lot more meltdowns with homework sort of stuff than we would have had if we'd never had to go through the whole homeschooling thing. I don't know if you find that too, especially if you've got children with additional needs. So another thing we try and do on the weekend is laundry. Now, if you've followed me on my Instagram, over on my Mummy of 4 UK or my YouTube channel for a while, you'll know I do laundry every day, because if I don't, I get a laundry hangover, and there's lots of us here. And if I don't do a load or two of laundry every day, there's such a backlog, it's really hard for me to keep up with it. And then if you've seen my laundry routine videos, you'll know we've got a system where things come out of the washing machine and the tumble dryer, and then everyone's got a box each, pants, socks, PJs, all that kind of stuff. And then the children are given their box of their things, and with a little assistance, sometimes depending on their age, they put away their uniform into what they're going to wear each day. So they've got hanging dividers in their wardrobes with everything for Monday, including pants, socks, tops, bottoms, all folded, ready to put on. Even hair accessories, anything they want to wear. On certain days, like the girls have to wear PE kit into school, they put that in their slot for that day. And if you want to take this to the next level, you could organise your outfits for the week. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I do not for myself. I often pick out what I'm wearing for the next day, don't necessarily do for the whole week. Obviously, if your children are in uniform, this is like a really easy thing to do. It is slightly more tricky if your children are in one of those schools where they have to have quite expensive uniform from a specific place. I know if your children have got to buy specific blazers and things, very expensive jumpers, I know some schools do that from certain places, then you're not necessarily going to have 5 of everything. But we're very lucky. Our school is, the primary anyway, are very relaxed about uniform. So most of the children's uniform is supermarket, is affordable kind of uniform. So I just have 5 of everything. But if you are in one of those areas where your school requires you to have very specific uniform, look out for swap shops, Facebook Marketplace, that kind of thing, because it's well worth having that extra stuff. Because I hate to tell you this, but your children are going to lose a lot of stuff. They are going to go to school wearing all of their clothes and come back without jumpers and t-shirts and good knows what else. So having spares is massively beneficial, because you can get it all organised on the weekend for the whole week. It really does free up so much headspace in the mornings, in the evenings. It takes away the panic the night before. I haven't got my this, or even worse, on the way out the door, I haven't got my that. Oh. There's nothing more stressful in the morning than having to try and magic up some uniform from thin air. So obviously, if your children are in uniform and you can do that on the weekend, future you really will thank you. It has made the biggest difference to my mornings doing that. I cannot even tell you. So we do that on the weekends. We do that uniform for the week. We do checking a lunch planning for the week as well. So check that if your children have got school dinners, that you've paid for everything for the week. So my little ones have a set amount of money I have to pay for school dinners. They all have school dinners because I feel that they actually try more in school dinners. This was something I learnt with my eldest, actually, who was a reasonably fussy eater, and he'd try things in school dinners that he would never have tried for me at home. And they do have odd combinations of things, I will give them that, but I do feel that they eat more. They're more likely to try things. It's beneficial to them from that point of view. So that's why it works for us. Obviously, if you're doing packed lunches, there's going to be a lot more planning involved. For us, it's just packed lunches if the children have trips. So organising, at least thinking about all of that for the week. And obviously, if you're doing packed lunches, you'd think about that alongside your grocery shopping and your meal planning. And then a bit of a clean and tidy reset. So for me, I work in my office, which you can see right now if you're watching on YouTube. Hi. I like to, on a Sunday, just dust the desk. I like to just clean the what's it called? A windowsill. I clean the windowsill, which is kind of in front of my desk, because I find that's where flies like to go to die. So once a week, I just give that a wipe over. I just take a cloth and just wipe over the desk because I find, I don't know why, but dust accumulates in this house like mad. So at least once a week, I like to give it a good old freshen up in here, just so that I'm ready for work. I like to make sure that, we reset the kitchen every night, to be honest. We clear up after dinner. So just making sure everything's kind of clean and tidy and ready for the week. Because I feel like if you're starting in a place of reasonably clean and tidy, if the week gets a bit chaotic, then, that's not going to be too much trouble. I generally do changing beds, things like that on the weekends, although sometimes that is done during the week. So that's not a set thing that I always do on the weekends, changing beds and tidying up. Sometimes that will be during the week because that's something I might do just before I start working from home. But then obviously it depends on your working schedule. Sometimes maybe you have a bit more time to do that in the week, but resetting your home so that at least you're going into the fresh week with everything feeling reasonably clean and tidy and picked up, and just clear surfaces. That would be the main thing for me. If all the surfaces look clear and you think, would I be embarrassed if someone just showed up unannounced to visit now? I think that's my kind of thinking. If I look around and see it doesn't look too cluttered, because I have been there where I've dreaded someone showing up at the house because I just think the place is so upside down. And I think that's what I've worked towards over the last few years. It's just getting to that stage where, if someone came, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It just wouldn't be the end of the world. And I've realised that I feel much calmer and I work much better and my head feels much clearer and my head feels less cluttered when my environment's less cluttered. So by just doing a little bit of a clean and tidy reset on the weekends, filling up tissues, filling up toilet rolls into all the cupboards. We've got toilet rolls that we store upstairs and downstairs, to refill in the bathrooms. I got to say though, the toilet roll that we go through is insane. The amount of toilet roll we go through, it's like the amount I buy, people must think I'm hoarding it, but no, we just go through it. It's madness. But things like restocking the toilet roll, that's kind of something I do during the weekend reset. And then I try and do a little bit of self-care. So if there's any, just a little bit, spend a bit of extra time doing a little bit of skincare. It's not something I do every weekend, to be honest. It's something I try and stay on top of. I'm trying to take better care of my skin on a daily basis, but I'm trying to, maybe on a Sunday, just do similar things, but take a little bit more time, a little bit less slapdash with it, and try and enjoy the experience of cleansing and whatever it might be. So that is something, because Self-Care Sunday, I love the idea of it. I do love the idea of it. So perhaps I should indulge a little bit more in Self-Care Sunday, and just perhaps that's something I need to work on. So if you are watching on YouTube and you can comment, please let me know, what are you going to add to your weekend reset? What are you doing already, and what do you feel needs to be added in? And I've got to figure out a way. I tell you what you can do. If you're listening, if you can't see me, you're listening, you can take a screenshot of this podcast and share it in stories. Tag me, Real Talk With Rhi podcast or Mummy of 4 UK, and tag me and let me know about your weekend reset, what you're doing at the moment and what you're going to add in. Let me know in stories, because I would love to hear from you. I love to know where you're listening. I love to know that you're enjoying the podcast, and your messages really, really do mean the world to me. So thank you so much. Thank you so much again for tuning in to another episode, and I shall see you next week for another one. Mwah. Bye guys.